Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 414 of the All Dolphins podcast. Joined today by Dave Hyde, columnist for the South Florida Sun Sentinel, and all around good guy. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing well, getting ready for another football weekend here.
Are we at the point where we can take it for granted the Dolphins are going to beat the Patriots tomorrow?
I don't know for granted after watching Cleveland beat Pittsburgh, but let's it's they have the better talent. They're at home. They have a lot of things going for them. Tua's got this offense running pretty well the last few weeks, and so sure, it should be. It falls in the category should be win.
Okay, perhaps I didn't phrase it correctly because my thought is I'm back with the Dolphins now to where they were at their peak in 2023 and 2022, which is logically they dismiss, barring obviously the Tennessee Monday night game and stuff like that. But generally speaking, they'll dismiss, backhand the lesser
Yeah.
teams, and then let's see what happens when they face the good teams, like they will the Green Bay Packers on Thursday night.
Well, that's really where they are. Uh, Even with Tua, they lost to the winning teams. They're going to face it's the most bizarre schedule. They're only going to place, I think, five winning teams as of right now, depending on what the Rams do, how they finish. But at five out of 17, when two of them were Buffalo, Arizona, they've lost the three. So really, what have we learned at this point of the Dolphins? They beat the bad teams. They're just out of the envelope of the really good teams, and they're not even going to play the outside of Buffalo. They're not going to play the cream of the crop of what you would think of. I mean, Green Bay, good team, but are they a Super Bowl contending team? Not as of right now. They aren't. So, but yeah, I agree with you that and sort of going into Sunday thinking, what am I going to write? That is. Um, these are the teams the Dolphins really have a good handle on.
Yeah, and I know some Dolphin fans watching this are going to hate me for saying it. Nothing new. I'm used to it. But here we go again against teams that currently have a winning record. They're like you mentioned, they're 0-3. You actually stole my stat nugget. Like again, we're doing it again. And the Rams are a good team. They're 5-5. Are they a good team? They're 5-5. Seattle's 5-5. Yes, they were 3-0 when the Dolphins played them. But I remember on this very podcast talking to somebody who covers the Seahawks and asking him, are they legit 3-0 or are they kind of like, have taken advantage of a soft schedule to that point? And he was like, yeah, we'll find out. Well, Seattle's not a great team. They're not terrible. But we're going to find out because Green Bay is a legitimate team with a winning record.
Yeah, and it's a tough place to play Thursday night. There's a lot of elements beyond just Green Bay's a good team that make this know,
Oh, we got a loss of sound here.
Daniel's signature win as the Dolphin coach. And it would be the Bay game if they get that right. I mean, so far. What would you say the Dallas game last year? Um, Other than
Baltimore, maybe.
the signature win was beating Denver 70 points to whatever because all of a sudden it was like Technicolor offense and things you hadn't seen before, and that was kind of the signature of what this era can be on its best days. But the Baltimore, you think Baltimore maybe that was a
The comeback at Baltimore, I think. I mean, the only thing lacking to make it an all timer is the fact it was week 2. But still, I mean, they were down 35-14 and they came back with like this ridiculous fourth quarter they had.
I will say, and if we ever get into this, that John Harbaugh has some of the goofiest coach, and that was one of them. And last week, where Derrick Henry got the ball, I think was it last weekend, 11 times
Yeah, last
against
Sunday.
Pittsburgh. I mean, he's got some of the goof for a great coach, a Super Bowl winning coach. I walk away from his games, including the one with the Dolphins, where let's face it, the only way the Dolphins win that game is if Tyreek Hill can get deep on that secondary, and they let him repeatedly get deep in
Yeah.
the second half. And so that's an aside there of my little John Harbaugh tick, because I think he's a great coach, but I'm mystified by some of the stuff he does.
But that happens to every coach too, because I think we saw Thursday night Mike Tomlin, who I think is just a fabulous coach. And then we're getting off on a tangent here, but philosophically, there was that controversial illegal touching penalty that some felt might have should have
Yeah.
been intentional grounding. And to me, in no way, shape, or form, if I'm the head coach, do I accept that penalty and make it 3rd and 7, give them 2 shots to get the first down, as opposed to making it 4th and 2. Go ahead and convert a 4th and 2, or kick a field goal, and I'll have 2 minutes left to try to kick a field goal of my own. That was, but anyway, that's beside the point. But like you said, John Harbaugh is a very good coach. Sometimes there's some wacky things going on there.
And to take it a complete tangent aside, the
Okay.
snow game, the snow. I was talking to a TV executive a few years ago, and he said, the origin of these TV wanting snow games, and I have no idea. And he said it was a Dolphins Buffalo game in the late '80s, because if you look at the schedule, it used to be the Dolphins would play Buffalo in the
Hmm.
September or October up there, whereas and play down here, and that's how they tried to match it. Then all of a sudden there was a snow game, and they looked at the ratings, and people love to watch snow football, and so they started switching it up because TV wanted snow games on TV. So back to our regularly scheduled program, Alan.
No, we're gonna continue that because I have some thoughts about this related to the Dolphins, and I wrote about this on dolphinsnsi.com on Friday, that because of the Browns' really porous season, I think the expectation has been that NFL is going to flex out that Dolphins at Cleveland game on December 29th. Except if there's snow in the forecast, are they really going to take away a snow game? I mean, because I'll give you another one. Monday Night Football now is under the flex rules, and they on Friday they flexed out a Thursday night game, so they're not averse to flexing out that thing. If you can flex out a Thursday night game, you can flex out a Monday night game, and they kept Cleveland at Denver, which on paper is for lack of a better term, a bow wow matchup. And I'm thinking maybe we're hoping for some snow at Mile High.
Mm-hmm.
Visual.
Yeah, that makes as much sense as anything. And but I've followed that since then, and I've bumped into him, and I talked to him about Snowden, and TV loves. And I have to admit, watching the game last night, I didn't watch the first half. I tuned it in, and it was snowing. This was fascinating to watch. So I'm
It's
there.
it's fun, and then realized I saw this on social media that we have Hard Knocks in season starting next week, and they're covering the AFC North, and they started filming last week. If you don't think we're going to get slow motion shots of the snow falling sideways, I mean, there might be the entire episode, so that should be interesting to watch. Actually, how far do you think the Dolphins can take this run? Do we legitimately think they can get to 9-8? Hell, maybe even 10-7. Dare I say it? Maybe 11-6. I know I'm going crazy here.
Look, I think 9-8. Yeah, I think that's possible. 10. Yeah, we're pushing it. Can they win? 10 games? I needed to see more that I haven't seen from them in the past couple of years, and I'm open to that. I'm open to seeing it. But we've seen there've been so many interesting quotes around the Dolphins, starting with Jordan Poyer at the start of the camp saying, "From the Buffalo sidelines, we
Mm-hmm.
thought in tight games they'd fold." And I'm not saying they folded against Arizona or Buffalo this year, but they lost close games to good teams. Those are the type of games I need to see them win, and they're going to have to win two or three and beat the teams they have to beat. They should beat to make get to 10 wins and give themselves a chance. So I'm open to that, but I haven't seen it, and we'll see. Have they taken another step? Has this sort of tightrope desperation road that they're on, is it going to bring out the best in them?
Yeah, and I don't want to say disheartened is not the right word, but I get frustrated about some Dolphin fans who like don't want to believe that anything good can happen and it's going to be okay. They're just building us up now to like let us
Yeah.
down the line. And maybe as a more neutral observer here, I'm watching. Why does it have to be that because it's been that way for what 23 years? Does it have to be the same for 24 years or 24 and 25? And then maybe I'm guilty of recency bias, but when I see how efficient they've been on offense, they haven't been explosive like they were. You mentioned the 70-20 game against Denver. It's not that we're seeing on offense, but they've just been off the charts efficient. Starting with
Yeah,
starting with
I
two.
gotta admit, I'm not sure how they can carry if this is the offense the rest of the way. And I'm not saying they don't need to do 10 plays or 12 play drives, but if that's all they got, they're going to run into a defense that's hot at some point that makes big plays and sacks them for 12 yards and et cetera, et cetera. If you play the Raiders and they're the 29th ranked defense, even the Rams were a middle of the road defense. So while I get it, they are nothing wrong with the recent weeks. You're going to have to see another level of them getting back to once in a while big plays, big chunk plays. Any team in big games is going to need those. And listen, the Dolphins have the people to do those. Mike McDaniel's toned it back, whether that's because that's what defenses are giving him. I'm sure in part. I think part of it's also to keep Tua healthy, to keep him so he's not holding the ball as guys run deep. Probably part of that, but it's working. It has worked, and nothing wrong with it the last several weeks. I just think at some point they're going to need, and it could be they got it. They got it in them. They can do it. So maybe they catch defenses off guard who start looking for the short pass to in the flat or over the middle to the tight end or whatever. But I just think at some point they're going to need that big chunk offense.
That's fair. So here you go playing Mr. Pessimist to my
No,
Mr.
I'm not pessimist. I'm not being pessimist. I'm just saying I like what you have to like what you've seen,
Yeah,
but to take the next step look, they're not going to be playing in front all the time, right?
correct.
At least against good teams. Yeah, at some point you're gonna, and so again, you got to win in a lot of ways, and the hole they put themselves in, they're probably gonna have to. It isn't like they can throw away a couple games and say, well, that just wasn't our style, et cetera. They're gonna have to win in a lot of different ways.
No, that's fair. And no, and I'm not. I'm joking. Like I'm being Mr. Optimist. You're being Mr. Pessimist. I'm one of those of like it is what it is at the moment, or as Nick Saban would say, it is what it is, and it'll stay until it changes. It'll stay that way. Uh, but it's like I'm like open to any possibility that they can keep this level of efficiency. I think one concern I have with the team right now is you got a couple of key guys who are playing through injuries, which generally won't get better. And I'm talking about Tyreek Hill and Teron Armstead, who are two of your most important players on offense. Armstead's dealing with the knee injuries, listed as questionable, didn't practice all week. Tyreek Hill has the wrist injury that he has said is going to require surgery. Obviously, he's been able to play through it. How much of a factor that is in his low numbers, I don't think it's much because it shouldn't affect his speed or his ability to get open. But that's kind of a concerning. Devon Achane, as well as he's played, has already gotten as many more carries actually than he did all of his rookie year. Is he going to hold up? Those would be things I think I would be worried about.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Tyreek Hill. Wes Welker was asked about him. He said his performance isn't affected one bit by the
Correct.
wrestling. So, okay, I mean, there's a guy who would know. So, and um, Armstead, you knew this was coming, right? You knew he's going to be. It's not the problem isn't missing practice. It's fascinating. And when we were sitting in the press conference talking to Butch Berry this week about it, um, how he can miss practice. He doesn't need to practice in the normal sense, and the offensive line doesn't need to. So the question always with him is, can he make it through a season? or how many games is he going to miss, and as importantly, when is he going to miss them? So, but you know what? Every team is dealing with these issues. Every single team has questions across the board, big questions, small questions, and they'll get worse as we get into December.
Yeah, and here's where I throw out a fun stat here. Number of times a Dolphin player in 2023 during the regular season did not practice at all during the week, but played on Sunday. The answer is, you want to give it a guess?
17 with Armstead, or how many did he play? I don't know.
The answer is 0.
Oh, come on. Armstead did not
He
practice
did.
every week.
He did not. He was listed as limited several times, and he would be like usually less pattern. Last year was DNP limited. This year he had the 2 games now where he didn't practice at all during the week, and he played against the Raiders. We'll see if he plays against New England. Last year did not happen. It happened in the playoff game against KC, and that was safety Deshaun Elliott. Didn't practice all week because he had a calf injury, and he played against the Chiefs. But just to show you, that's kind of rare. So it's like we talk about, Armstead's a veteran and all that, and he's been through the ropes and he knows what he's doing. Doesn't need to practice as much as other guys.
He hasn't practiced all year. I mean, not in the practice sense. Okay.
Well,
okay.
he's been listed as limited.
Technically, yes, but you talk to him, you talk to the coaches, and he does the walkthroughs. But as far as now, nobody's really hitting much. Certainly, by this time of the year, they aren't hitting in practice. So.
Right.
At this point, nobody's really practicing in the sense that we discuss practice.
Okay. These several previous games, Dolphins have owned. I'm going to 2 different directions here. Dolphins have owned the Patriots for the past several years, and I know a ton is made of Tua's 6-0 record against the Patriots. And as I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, it's a lot more than just Tua. It's about the running game. It's about the defense. It's also about the fact that the Patriots haven't had a good quarterback since Tom Brady.
Patriots have been bad. They've been bad the last few years. I mean, there's the bottom line. I mean, it is interesting. The Dolphins have dominated the Patriots, and they've been dominated by the Bills. And if you were to define who the Dolphins are, there you are. They're whipping up on the bad teams or the teams they should beat. And I'm not dismissing that because again, look at Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Teams get beat by worse teams all the time in the NFL. Okay, so I'm not dismissing that, but if you wanted to define the Dolphins, there they are. They're below the Bills clearly, and they're above the Patriots clearly, and the Jets too. So isn't that who the Dolphins are?
No, that's a very good point. And the Jets you mentioned as well, and yeah. And the thing is, Buffalo has Josh Allen, just like the New England had Tom Brady for those many years, and that's your difference in the division here. And this is where the Dolphins are trying or aspiring to get to that next level. It's not just Buffalo; it's the Buffaloes, it's the KC, it's the Baltimore. Those teams that you start any season, and you have to account for those teams being a factor. And then Pittsburgh is maybe a notch below. But Pittsburgh always has a winning record under Mike Tomlin. That's just a fact. That's not even an opinion. They always
Bill Walsh used to say there's 8 organizations you have to worry about, and all the rest of them will beat themselves. You don't have to worry. And that was in the 80s. It still carries true. There's a handful of great organizations out there, and year after year they come up with the answers and figure it out and make the tough decisions. And everybody said, "Oh, they were lucky to do that." Well, that's why they're a great organization. Okay, and you mentioned some of every year it seems like it's the same teams in the AFC that the Dolphins are chasing.
Buffalo, KC, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and then the NFC. You mentioned 8: Detroit, Philadelphia, Green Bay, San Francisco. There you go. And then the other teams kind of rotate. And then the Dolphins are aspiring to get to that level. Maybe they will. I've asked all of my co-hosts this week, their thoughts on Tua, and I wrote a column earlier this week saying the best ball he's played in his career from where I sit. What are you seeing from him? Do you see anything different? Do you see him taking a step forward?
Sure. Yeah. And one thing that I guess is different and very positive is he's buying with his feet. He's buying some time on some plays. Okay, not now. We're not talking. Here comes the rookie Drake May averaging 9.5 yards a carry and being compared to, I was reading, somebody's comparing him to John Elway, someone's comparing him to Josh Allen. Of course, at this point, 6 starts, you look at the complete upside of what he could be. He's not going to get to that level, I
Correct.
assume, this Hall. But yeah, the point is he's running a lot. Now, Tua is not that guy. And you don't want him to be that guy. But he is buying time with his feet in ways that I of course he's done it at times, but I think he's done a little more since he's come back from concussion. Other than that, you got the great handle, all the things that this offense again is tailor made for what he wants to do, and they even you know, tighten the screws a little more in the last few weeks. Where very accurate, very he anticipates where to go with the ball, and making great decisions, and just having a command of where he wants to put the ball, of what the defense is offering him. So, um, I, I don't. Other than that, I don't really see anything that says he's a different quarterback. I just think um, he's in great command right now. Now, again, we got to see it. It's like with the offensive line to me. The offensive line's playing good. I want to see it though against good defenses. When they went up against the Rams, a good young defensive line, they had they struggled running the ball. So I'm praising, but you get into this reactionary. One week they're great, and the next week they're awful, and 2 weeks they win 2 games in a row. They lost 3 weeks in a row now, and the NFL season does that to you. Sometimes it's good to it's just sit back and watch a little how it all plays out. But he's the last 4 weeks he's played great. The one, if you're going to quibble, and it's not a quibble, but a lot of balls are going on the ground.
Hmm.
Um, and that's he even said after the last game, I gotta without even bringing it up, just as almost an aside, I got to protect the ball more, and he's right about that.
No, without question. Okay, our final topic. This is in light of the Jets firing Joe Douglas this week. And so I wrote a column about that and basically asking the question, is Chris Greer's seat hot? And I'm not so sure it is unless it falls really flat and goes off the rails completely down the stretch. If the Dolphins wind up even 8-9, 9-8, I can easily see somebody pointing, look, we didn't have Tua for 4 games, and then running it back next year because they like their nucleus, including Mike McDaniel, Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Ramsey, and all those guys.
General manager for life, baby. That's
Maybe.
that general manager for life. Look, this season is in trouble, and they're trying to climb back out of the hole, as Calais Campbell said, because they screwed up a backup quarterback. I mean, they're that if they get a win or two over teams, just have adequate quarterback play and are prepared. And that to me, 60% of a general manager's job is getting the quarterback room right on any team. You can find edge rushers, you can find tackles, but the quarterback is so important. You got to get that quarterback. And you know, I ascribe to what Jimmy Johnson says. The backup quarterback's the second most important guy on your team. And so get back to the question: is Chris Greer going to be fired? If 8-9, Steve Ross isn't going to fire him. Um, Steve Ross, who said this is a Super Bowl team, isn't going to fire him after 9 years, where as general manager, where they aren't even a whiff of the Super Bowl. So, but what are the aspirations of this team? Where are they going? So, to me, I always said, let's get to the end of the year and see what it looks like before you
Well, that's
fire
easy, though.
anybody.
That's
But
easy.
is he on the hot seat? Yeah, I think he is on the hot seat. How could he not be? But the only guy who's going to make the decision, he hasn't shown any inclination. Last year I thought he would have been on the hot seat because another year without a playoff win when this whole run, this whole mini era was set up to make a deep run in the playoffs, and they
Mhm.
can't even get out. They're the seventh seed, and they can't get out of the first round. So I came into this year writing, he's got to be on the hot seat, and then they blunder the first half of the season, some of the blunders.
Yep.
How could he not be on that? So to me, he's on the hot seat. But to Steve Ross, I'm guessing it's going to be a different look. I mean, so, but you
Yeah,
know,
you're kind of agreeing with me.
I remember talking to Dave Dombrowski when he was with the Marlins. So this is going back years, and I
Also,
asked him,
also with
"There
the
you go, he's with your team." Yeah, he came here from there. Um, and I was asking him a question in spring training. Da, 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 what's this guy going to? He goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. In your job, I get it. You guys always want the decision now, but in my job, you know what? The answers will come to us. The answers come to us if you observe and you're smart, and that's what we got to do. We got to let the answers come. And I'm sort of there with all these Dolphin decisions and et cetera. Chris Greer. The answer will come to us.
that's taking it to come on. Um, no, I'm like of the opinion like maybe he should be, but I don't know that he is because I think he's got an awful lot of equity with Stephen Ross. And here's the other thing too is when Stephen Ross is making the comment about being Super Bowl contenders, let's not forget he's talking to the team broadcast during a preseason game.
Okay. All
Is,
right.
is it the same thing? Is it the same thing as he said that in a press conference?
He doesn't have to say it there. I mean, he doesn't have to
No,
say it to the team cheerleading.
except
No.
that, except that all the people listening on the broadcast are Dolphin fans.
Well,
So he's kind of basically, let's
look, but
everybody
when
that's
that when look when that's the only statement he makes all year,
pretty much, yep.
what do you think of your team? There's a statement, okay? And and let's face it, this whole era, tanking, getting rid of so many draft picks, buying high price. This was the window last year, this year, and it'll stretch into next year. But as we saw this year, when losing Christian Wilkins and Van Ginkel and Robert Hunt, you're starting to lose some of the depth. And where are the draft picks filling in the holes? The young guys, and that's the real problem. You look at the last 3 years; they bought a lot of guys, they traded some draft picks, but the roster is getting older, and you don't see the young guys moving up the ladder.
And
Or
again,
you
Dave's volume. You back, Dave?
Yeah, I'm back. I
There we
guess I
go.
lost my
You were talking about, and I we see your palm. No,
little
you were talking about young players. Well, yeah, other than Devon Achan, as far as recent draft picks, not a whole lot of guys making big contributions. But that's the price you pay for. You traded number one pick for Tyreek Hill. You traded number one for Bradley Chubb. You traded a 3 for Jalen Ramsey.
In part,
Who,
absolutely. In part, the other part is they're not hitting. Where's Cam Smith, Tyndall? You got, Chop Robinson looks like he could be something, but as as uh, as Weaver said about another player this week, we'd like to see some of those pressures turn into sacks, and I think that's where you are with. I get and that's the first time, and that's what I've always thought, and it was good to hear someone in the NFL actually say that. Oh, you guys don't know what you're talking about. It's all about pressures. No, sometimes you like to see it turn into a sack. So, um,
and
but again,
interestingly enough, that was his answer when I asked him about Benito Jones, who's a defensive tackle.
Benito Jones, that was it. Yeah, yes, yeah. I knew it was about something, but you can see the possibilities in Chop Robinson. I mean, but your second round picks on scholarship. Um, I just don't. And he could be great. He could be, who knows. So I just don't see enough young blood coming in to which is what all teams need.
That is fair. And hopefully the Dolphins will get and produce what they need for the rest of the 2024 season, starting Sunday against the New England Patriots. Kickoff for 1 p.m. at Hard Rock Stadium. That's going to do it for today. Thanks, as always, to Dave Hyde. Read his work at sunsentinel.com. Thank you very much, Senor Hyde.
Thank you, Alan.
Gang, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And we will catch you, everyone, after the game with Ken LaVicka. Thanks, everyone.